Have you ever read a story that starts out completely normal but slowly becomes really unsettling? One writer who was famous for doing that was Shirley Jackson, and today I'm going to talk about her life and why her writing became so influential. Shirley Jackson was born in San Francisco, California in 1916. When she was in high school, her family moved to Rochester, New York. Later, she attended Syracuse University, where she studied writing. While she was there, she met her future husband, Stanley Edgar Hyman, who was a literary critic. Together they had four children: Lawrence, Joanne, Sarah, and Barry. Jackson went on to become a successful writer. She wrote many short stories and six novels, but she is most famous for her short story, The Lottery, which was published in 1948. When it was first published, many readers were shocked by the ending, and the story received a lot of negative criticism because of its disturbing nature. She also wrote the novel The Haunting of Hill House, published in 1959, which is considered to be one of the best haunted house stories ever written. What makes Jackson's writing interesting is that the horror usually comes from ordinary people and everyday situations, not monsters. Even though her work was controversial at first, it later became influential. Writers like Stephen King and Neil Gaiman have said that they were inspired by her writing. Sadly, Shirley Jackson died in 1965 at just 48 years old from heart failure, but her stories remain incredibly influential in literature today. To better understand why Shirley Jackson wrote stories like The Lottery, it helps to look at the historical and cultural environment she was living in at the time.
The lottery was published in 1948 in The New Yorker, shortly after World War II ended in 1945. Around this time, tension was growing between the United States and the Soviet Union, which later became the Cold War. Because of this time period, the events of the war strongly influenced the message of the story. During the war, the world learned about the Holocaust. The government of the Nazi Germany made cruel and unethical decisions that led to the mass killing of Jewish people. Many people followed orders or stayed silent because of fear and pressure from authority. These events show that normal people can commit harmful actions when they follow authority or tradition without questioning them. This idea is clearly shown in The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. In the story, the townspeople gather for the lottery, even though it leads to someone's death every year. Most people seem nervous and uncomfortable, but they still follow the tradition. Especially old man Werner strongly supports it and believes it should never stop. Because the people are afraid of changing tradition, they continue the lottery every year. In the end, Tessie Hutchinson is chosen, and the townspeople stone her to death. The Cold War and the Second Red Scare also influenced the themes of the story. During this time, many Americans feared that communism could spread into the United States. In 1947, President Harry Truman signed an executive order requiring federal employees to be screened for connection to communism. As a result, American nationalism and the loyalty to the country increased. People were expected to follow tradition and support authority without questioning it. In many cases, questioning authority could make someone appear suspicious. This idea connects directly to the story. In the town, no one questions the lottery, even though it results in someone's death every year. These people may feel nervous or uncomfortable, but no one stands up to stop the tradition. Through this story, Shirley Jackson shows how fear, tradition, and social pressure can cause people to accept brutal actions without questioning them.
Some literary elements that are present in The Lottery includes the genre which is fiction. The story takes place in the town square of the village on a bright, warm summer day on June 27th. The pleasant summer day contrasts with the violent event of the lottery that happens later on. The conflict of the story is mainly individual versus society, because Tessie Hutchinson protests the lottery when she gets picked, but the rest of the villagers continue to follow their traditions. The story uses a situational irony because the lottery usually means winning a prize, but in the lottery, the person who wins is actually chosen to die. Some symbols present in the story includes the black box that is associated with death and darkness, and the black circles on the strip of paper is also associated with death. Lastly, there's foreshadowing. For example, the children gathering stones at the beginning of the story, hinting that the stones will be used later. Another example is the villagers acting nervous and quiet foreshadows that the event is serious and disturbing.
Okay, so here are the major issues of the story. The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. And so the top three issues that I noticed were the first one being following traditions with no worries. And the second one was the social pressure and fear. And lastly was the luck and unfair treatment. Um, One of the major issues is the danger of following tradition. The villagers went on with the tradition, even if it, was very cruel. And so some of my points were like the villagers choose to do the lottery every year, even though it is something very cruel. And no villagers ever seem to ask why they do it. It's just something that they assume to do because there's always been a lottery. And that was according to an old man Warner, which was in the story. And this story also shows how, some traditions will continue even if they are harmful or don't make any sense. Um, and so the second one being the social pressure and fear, the villagers always participate in the lottery even if they feel uncomfortable with it. And the main reason is because they don't want to stand out to any of the other villagers. Sometimes villagers seem uneasy or don't feel right, but they stay silent and still follow along. Um, and it just kind of shows you how some people will go along with anything or something wrong just to fit in. And so it shows how the fear of judgment can make others support something wrong or even cruel. And then lastly, um, there was a lot of situations where it would depend on your luck and many unfair treatments. Anyone could be chosen, the winner, and that's what they called the person. Um, and it was completely by luck and your chances of drawing. Um, the winner did not deserve what happened to them. It was a very cruel and just extremely unfair punishment, and that was the stoning that they did, according to the story. It also highlights how it can harm people with no reason. It's mainly because society allows it, and um, I think Jackson uses it to show how society can normalize um, cruelty and injustice. So it makes ordinary people do terrible things just because that's what they go along with. And so those were the three major issues I noticed in The Lottery by Jackson.
Thank you for watching.